back of the room.
And
They'll get it.
they're controllable, so.
I might be blocking it. Am I blocking that if you, not you, but, because
Well, let me sit first. Well, that's kind of,
Kim comes,
I can get it on him.
you can. Okay, great.
Don't worry about Mr. Delaney. We do better without him.
So I should go ahead and start? Okay. All right, well, rather than go line item by line item, which I can also do if you want to do, I thought a better idea would be to kind of give you a brief synopsis of some of the work we've worked on in the past as well as the last year. The most important point I wanted to make is that since 2005, and I'm only measuring from 2005 because that's when you had some new staff come on board, we've obtained $1,441,000 in grants. If you were to divide that by the last 7 years, the community planning department averages 205,857, and I just found out we received another grant today that I didn't include, but I didn't find out till 4, and I was not going to redo the entire presentation and poster board. But the point I wanted to make is that it's not, we obviously don't have a revolving fund, but we far exceed what our departmental budget is if you were to look into all of our earnings through all our grants we've obtained over the years. The next one I wanted to make is that North Reading is considered by the Commonwealth, it's been used as a model by the Commonwealth and other communities as a proactive planning department, not reactive. And why is that important? If you're a reactive planning department, you're just sitting around, you're doing the treadmill work, you're pushing the permits, that's all you have time to do. If you're out there and you're applying for grants, if you're applying for creative planning like we've done with the 40R, with the 43D, how we're looking into inclusionary zoning now, you get to have a name for yourself in the planning community amongst the Commonwealth, and that's what helps you obtain grants. So that's why we've been somewhat fortunate in that regard. Let me scroll down a little bit. All right, why is long-range planning vital to North Reading's future? It's vital because if you do not have those long-range plans, you cannot get the grants. Every single grant that we apply for, they want to know that North Reading has had a plan in place, that they've had goals and objectives, and that they've accomplished those goals and objectives. So there's a few long-range plans that we're working on. We are currently updating the open space and recreation plan. I just submitted a grant for a master plan update. Our last master plan was done in 2004. I have a pretty good feeling about that, and that would update the master plan so that all of our goals and objectives would be renewed because we've accomplished quite a few of them, so it's time for it to be updated. And we are working on a local action energy plan through a grant that we were able to receive through the Bar Foundation. And again, just to reiterate, all the long-range plans are important because if you cannot demonstrate that you're not meeting those goals and accomplishments, you're not going to get grant funding. And for a small community, you know, to average the amount of grants that we do, we're pretty fortunate, and I think it means and demonstrates well to a lot of our peers that we are a very proactive planning department, and that's where I would like us to be. I'm sure you're curious about the development trends in town because the economy has slowed down. Surprisingly, I was surprised anyway, we have had 2 new subdivisions come in totaling 28 lots. One is approved, one will be coming back. That one's going to be a little more complicated than the other one. And the reason I wanted to write down the smaller subdivisions continue to take more time, let me tell you why. The smaller subdivisions take up more staff time, believe it or not, than the larger ones, because if you have a 1-lot subdivision, it's typically purchased by a homeowner. They are not familiar at all, even though they have all the documentation on the closing. It is really difficult for them because they're not a, quote, builder. If you get a large subdivision and you get like a national building firm, they usually know what they're doing. It's a little bit easier to monitor. The smaller ones seem to be taking up more of our staff time in terms of guiding them through the process. Cell tower activity, that I still have 2 more on my next agenda, and cell tower activity remains very strong, which is good because we lease out a lot of the cell towers, so that's more money for the town. And commercial activity is continuing along. You all know about Milton Cat. You were there at the grand opening. Hopefully, some of you were. And Heavenly Donuts as well. So I wrote down street acceptances with DPW because, as Barbara referenced, We had like 14 of them last year. And in answer to the question that was posed, she's right. I mean, we could have anywhere from 6 to 10 zoning articles or one complex zoning article. So it's hard to gauge what's going to happen year to year. So what are our goals and objectives for 2013? Last year, we drafted the inclusionary housing zoning bylaw. There were some concerns from some residents or some developers, so we are having that back on our agenda March 20th. I've invited the people who had some concerns to attend so that we can make sure that those are implemented. And for anyone who doesn't know, inclusionary housing is, it would basically require, after X amount of lots in a subdivision, you provide one affordable house lot. And the number kind of goes up and down from there. I am working on the first-time home buyer grant we received. Basically what that is we don't have a first-time home buyer program, and I've always wanted to have that program, so I'm currently being trained by another community that has it. That's what the grant was. And then we would go back here and explain that process to you, and we would use the North Shore Home Consortium funds that aren't already allocated for the 55-year and older project. Advanced internal operations via technology. That is really important to our department, and we've had a lot of discussion about it in department head meetings. And what Barbara just mentioned, the E-code, if you go off the top of my head, the town of Andover has it. There's zoning bylaws and subdivision regs, and it's the same, I think it's done by general code. You could type in lot coverage, and it'll take you right to that section. So like the search capability alone for accessibility to the public, it would really be a huge asset for the community. Okay, so what's the future of CPC? We want to update the master plan. That is the gospel, the Bible, the guiding book of the town's future. A lot of those updates are going to segue over into the economic development initiatives that we're looking into doing with the Economic Development Committee. I'd like to move forward and implement technology. The digital documentation system, I think you'll probably hear more about that from Greg and Jean. That would be a huge, huge service for the public and I think for all of Town Hall. I wanted to mention that we have a clear mission among all our staff, and that when we formulate all our goals and objectives, I don't know if you've heard of it, but I use like what's called a SMART tool, and it basically means that your goals, they're measurable, attainable, reachable. I have all the lingo down. Now I'm gonna forget it because I'm on camera and I'm talking so much and I'm talking fast. But basically you can, sorry, now I have everyone laughing. Basically, they're specific, measurable, attainable, reachable, and I forget what the T means, I'm gonna admit it. But the point is you're supposed to be able to write your goal down, and you should be able to, in a fiscal year, measure it, and if you didn't obtain it, for whatever reason, that's fine, but document why, and then, like the inclusionary bylaw, and regroup and move on and come back forward. We're going to continue pursuing grants, which I do want to mention now before I forget. The grants that the department has applied for, we get a lot of assistance from Parks and Rec, DPW, obviously the CPC. I've asked actually some of you and emailed you for input on some of my grant submittals. Our department doesn't work in a vacuum. It actually works on behalf of the entire community and all their departments.
Sure.
And can't read the rest of what I wrote. Oh, economic development. So as part of updating the master plan, as we move forward with the Economic Development Committee, we have one member. We're setting a date to interview the second person. But in the interim, we had completed the data for the tax benefit analysis for Route 28, and we want to move forward on looking into commercial corridor district guidelines and tax increment financing for certain areas of town, specifically Route 28 and Concord Street. And it kind of goes without saying, as we move forward, if we eventually in time can accomplish sewer, we would pursue grants for infrastructure to offset that cost as well. I think that's it. I don't know if you want me to now go back to the specific budget, or I thought giving you an overview was a better way of going about it.
I will say, wow.
Wow, like I was too fast, or wow?
No,
You
perfect.
actually, not as fast as you usually are. You're
I,
very
I,
good.
when I get nervous, I talk quicker.
Yeah.
And this is, I like sitting at the podium better. It's less nerve-wracking. The table, like.
Really?
Well, you
It is, yeah.
you're welcome to
Oh,
go
I
up
feel
there.
short. I feel like you guys are tall and little.
I have a question about,
Michael,
specific to your budget, you talk about the GIS. In your budget, I see you added a full-time, is that a part-time, is that a consultant?
Well, that's actually, thank you for bringing that up. The GIS position, it was vacated. By vacated, I mean that someone was in the position, they left and took a new job. And it's been stagnant for the last, I think, 3 years due to the budget cuts. Obviously, it would be significantly easier instead of having other private consultants doing the GIS mapping for me and for DPW all the time. The other thing that it gains is that there's actually, the title was actually changed to Assistant Planning Administrator at one point. And like right now, for example, we have 4 grants ongoing. All of those grants, and Mr. Jones will tell you probably he kind of has a relative that knows how grants work with the state. They don't come to me. I have to go to them. If they give us the money, they are not traveling to North Reading. Heidi's traveling to Boston, and I am not here. And there are the pre-meetings and the facilitating and, what do you think we should be looking for and the drafts. And the bonus of having had that position, in addition to the GIS capability, which benefited even the schools, not just Town Hall,
Right.
was that there was somebody else there to answer questions when I was in meetings. So it looks like that may have gotten,
I know you were requesting it, and yeah, and the town administrator has it
Right.
just blank right now.
But that would be, that would be important for me to have considered. If you could take a careful look at that, I would appreciate it.
And the T, by the way, is timely, I believe.
Okay, thank you.
Oh, you were good. Timely, because you were very timely in your presentation.
Any questions?
I support the GIS. I at least think it's worthy of a discussion. Maybe not for tonight, but I think we should.
originally, when we had the GIS coordinator, wasn't it a split function between Public Works and CPC?
Just the one position.
CPC actually, from what I understand, received a grant. I guess it would be much like other positions in town that came in on a grant, and then the grant was like a 1 or 2 year thing, and then it became a town position.
That isn't a function we can collaborate with another town and share the resource, right?
Well, Reading is full-time. I don't think so, because I personally, off the top of my head, don't know. I know Andover, I believe Andover. I think Laura's full-time. I know Kim is full-time in Reading. I don't know of any part-time people off the top of my head in adjacent communities.
Questions? Greg, you made a note of looking into that. Where's the CPC, members of the CPC tonight?
They knew that this was on the agenda tonight, but I've always, for the budget, I've always come alone in the past, and I don't think they felt there was a need to have reinforcements. I think they felt.
Well, based on the job you've done, I don't think
Think
there
they
was
made the right
need,
decision?
but no. But you would think they would have been here to support you.
I know I have their support. They actually, I had 2 of them come in today, and I showed them the poster board and the presentation,
Okay.
Just in relation to the other half of the property out here,
JT Barry?
did I understand that there was an extension on the lease with Mr. Gutierrez? Or
Yes,
not the lease, but
that's-
the purchase
Yes, that's
for
my
an additional,
understanding as
what,
well.
5 years?
Is that
5 years.
official now, or?
I don't have official word. Greg and I had both received an email saying that they were in the process of renegotiating with Gutierrez. That's the last.
Right.
Last
Last I had heard too.
I haven't heard anything else from them.
Sad.
So I would love to develop that.
Yeah.
Why not?
I would.
And former Stop and Shop, any activity?
They're working
Recent
hard
activity.
they're working hard to
Yes.
circumvent our,
I'm sure they are.
But no, there have been companies that have had interest, and I think the issue And I think I
The issue
could,
is the lease at
Lease.
Stop
the
and
lease,
Shop. The
right,
lease and the
they
time.
want a
time-
15-year lease.
Right, and
And
Stop
to
and Shop's only
amortize
willing to go
it
10.
and make it